From the Revolutionary War in the 1700s through the War of 1812, Native Americans in Florida, called the Seminole, served as deadly mercenaries for British and Spanish forces. Their brutal attacks on settlements in Georgia, as well as Americans in Florida, led many to view the Seminole as enemies. Runaway slaves and Seminole manned a British-supplied fort near modern-day Apalachicola. They used this space for raids into Georgia. But when they killed 4 U.S. sailors that were carrying American goods, they roused the anger of Americans to a boiling point. Because Spain wouldn't, and likely couldn't do anything about these Negro and Seminole bandits, President Andrew Jackson sent a small army to defeat what was called the Negro Fort. The battle was won in short order, but a larger war had been started in Florida. In fact, 3 long wars, known as the Seminole Wars, were to be fought between the Seminole and Federal troops. I visited the Dade Battlefield historic site. This park preserves the location of an altercation between Federal and Seminole troops, a fight which began the Second Seminole War. In late December, Federal officer Major Francis Dade led a detachment of troops from Fort Brooke, which is now Tampa, towards Fort King, which is now Ocala. The troops marched up the military road known as King Highway, which led through the heart of Seminole territory. Dade planned to bring reinforcements safely to Fort King. At the time, tensions were extremely high between Federal and Seminole forces. The Seminole had shifted from an overtly aggressive stance against the U.S. into a defensive aggressive stance. On the 5th day of the march, December 28th, at about 8 a.m., the 110 Federal troops walked blindly into a trap. A large pond lay to their east, and 180 Seminoles were lying in wait on the west side of the road, hidden behind palmettos, pines, and oaks. The Seminole opened fire simultaneously, killing Major Dade instantly and half his men. The survivors assembled a rough-hewn triangular palisade with pines and attempted to fight off the Seminole. The battle ended sometime in the afternoon, with all 100 Federals left for dead. Black allies of the Seminole rode in and stripped and butchered the dead and wounded. Somehow, 3 soldiers survived, with terrible wounds, and stumbled the 60 miles back to Fort King in a mere 3 days. The old military road is still visible, and the acres on which a battlefield occurred are right in front of the visitor center. The site where the blood was shed is vividly preserved. This chapter in American history is both complicated and tragic, but it cannot become forgotten. We must do our best to research original accounts of history and learn the truth of our nation's past, whether pretty or not.